Greetings, YouTube, and welcome to the second episode of the Mad Podcast. And yes, I'm well aware of how that sounds, and believe it or not, I never picked man at desk to spell mad, but I'm not complaining. So, with us today we have the amazing,
I am Captain Peanut.
indeed. So, I've got to ask, why Captain Peanut?
It's an excellent question. Do you know, I get that a lot. The answer, I honestly have no idea. um, I wanted some sort of name when I was in senior school that was a bit different. And I kind of wanted something that you could take a word and change it a little bit to make it still the word. And peanut just seemed to fit. So it's the letter P and then nut. Um, and I think I got it from a comic book, like you used to get the SpongeBob SquarePants comics and things like that, where you'd have like choose the first letter of your name and then the first letter of your surname, and then it would match up with something, and that would be your name. And I got Captain and Peanut, and abbreviated the Peanut. So I
Magic.
think that's where it comes from. Somewhere in the depths of my mind, it's
Uh,
that's the
I mean,
story. But
there are far worse. Like, I mean, to be fair, my name on pretty much everything is either my actual name or Jed was here, because
makes
So
sense. Yeah,
I'm ridiculously imaginative, as you can all tell. So
I
I can't
usually
imagine. So I
I
can't
usually just
imagine.
go by Peanuts to my friends. So.
That's fair. That's fair. So I can't imagine anyone listening to a podcast on Man at Desk Productions hasn't listened to the Nexus Point or the Nexus
Hmm.
Doctor's audios. If somehow you haven't been listening to the Nexus Point or the Nexus Doctor audios, first off, what the fuck are you doing on the podcast section of it? Like the podcasts are about the audios. Fucking go listen to the audios. What the
Yes,
fuck? You
yes, they
know.
are the best thing. They literally are the best thing.
But
Like,
yeah.
yeah, great
Uh,
storyline, great cast. Great editing. Even that guy. The guy who does the doctor. The main way. He's all right. He's a pretty solid fellow.
he's all right. He's all
He's
right.
all right. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So Peanut has the I'd say honor, but considering who this doctor is, honor might not be the right word. Peanut has the honor of playing what we call the mind games doctor.
Mm,
So yeah,
yeah, I do love my role as the mind games doctor. Um, yeah, listening to me on this podcast, you might not instantly recognize my voice because I do sort of switch it up slightly. But yeah, I do really love him, just the sort of gravelly, old kind of Doctor. I kind of try to put a bit of a Capaldi feel into it as well. I really enjoyed doing that.
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, but before we start talking like really sort of in depth with
Mm.
that, I have a structure. Believe it or not, ladies,
Oh,
gentlemen, and distinguished others, I have a
oh,
structure to
you
this
came
stuff.
prepared.
I know, and the first part of that structure is me asking. So, yeah, Captain Peanut, how did you get
Mm.
into like the Doctor Who fandom in general and this sort of fan acting side in specific?
Oh man. So my earliest memory of Doctor Who, um, incidentally, was being at an air show. Um, my family and I, well, my family had taken me to a sort of a museum for aeroplanes and um, aero engineering and stuff like that, and they had a big event on, sort of like a walk around market. They had like the flashy cars and things like that, and people selling stuff off. And one of the stands was the Dalek builders. And this was before 2005, so I was really young. And remember sitting on my dad's shoulders, and I pointed over to this big rolling thing, um, and I said to my dad, "What is that?" And he said, "It's a Dalek." I said, "What's a Dalek?" And he said, "It's from Doctor Who." And I said, "What's Doctor Who?" And he said, "I must educate you, dear boy." And I think it was about a year or two later was when um, Doctor Who became revived. And so seeing a Dalek back on screen in the episode Dalek was quite huge for me, as obviously the Daleks being the first thing that I know of Doctor Who. And I just fell in love, and never really stopped falling in love with it. It's always been a huge point in my life, and it's kind of influenced me as well. So, with regards to your second point as well about getting into productions and things like that, I'd always sort of been interested in acting and wanted to be an actor when I was younger, but never really got the opportunity to do it.
Hmm.
So I was on TikTok one day, just scrolling through, and I came across your lovely face doing a casting call. And I was like, do you know what? What the heck? I might as well. So I auditioned, applied, auditioned, and yeah, ended up getting a couple of roles in the Nexus Point.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So obviously, to those of you who should have gone and listened to the Nexus Point by
hmm
now, dear
go do it.
listeners,
If you haven't,
uh,
just click off and go listen to it.
yeah, yeah. Like we'll wait.
Yeah,
We're like
we'll be here.
frozen etchings of memory. We'll still be here, guys. We'll still
Yeah.
be here.
So
You
open up another tab and open. I have two running at the same time.
Oh yeah, totally. Not gonna confuse the heck out of some people. But yeah, so you play. So obviously you play the chief role that you play is the
Mhm.
quote unquote mind games doctor.
Yep.
But you also did some Santaran voices for us,
Yep.
which obviously really damn cool. I really liked your Santaran, like
Thank you.
um, like properly. Like I've heard some really good Santaran voices. Yours are up there, definitely.
Oh wow, thank you.
I feel like I need to throw you in Abby's direction if she ever decides to have more than one Sontaran in an episode.
Do you know
Because
what? I was wondering myself. I've got to be
well, this
honest.
is this is it. Because she's got a guy who's really good at Sontaran voices as her Strax. But I feel
Cool.
like if they ever wanted to have more than one Sontaran, they just need to have like multiple Sontaran voices. And
Yeah.
you actually did both of the Sontaran voices from the series at that time. So you did the general voice, but you also did
Mm.
the Strax actor voice as well. So that was really cool. So
Yeah, that was good fun because the general obviously had to be a bit more gruff and a little bit more pompous, if you like. So he was much more up here and always talking a little bit more poshly,
hmm,
sort of. And
sort of.
then sort of got to get into the old Sontaran voice now. It's a bit difficult, but and then with the other Sontarans, that was just I think I sent you actually a variation of different
Hmm,
Sontaran voices.
I think you
Like
did. To be fair.
yeah, like what was the line? Something like, "We've hit a large kinetic shield.
Ah,
We're about
yes,
to
yes.
impact a kinetic shield."
Oh no, I threw up a kinetic shield, otherwise known as a space wall. In space! It's a
You
space wall.
cannot do that, Doctor.
I could totally do that. I could put a wall up in space. Fuck
It
you, I'm
is
Doctor
against the Shadow Proclamation.
Who.
I
I
don't think I'm
mean.
doing it right now. I need to go back and practice some more.
But so that was fun. But obviously as well,
Yeah.
you play John Stafford, MBE,
Mm.
who is constantly told never to use the letters at the end of his name because it makes him sound arseholish.
Yeah,
Um,
says the man who uses a title for a name.
oh, I know it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I love it.
So yeah, tell us a bit about. I guess tell us a bit about like these characters that you play. Then, like your
Yeah,
interpretations of those two characters, because they're two very different characters, obviously.
totally. Yeah. With the Sontaran one, it was only for a few lines, but I wanted to get it absolutely perfect. Um, so obviously, again, I sent you quite a few takes on that one. Um, and yeah, even listening to it back, I kind of wish I'd done it a little bit better than it came out. But no, I'm quite happy with it. And yeah, I'm just really pleased with how that came out, really, especially with the variation of the Sontaran voices, because them being clones, you want them to sound similar but not exactly the same. So I was kind
Hmm.
of going for a similar vibe, but different because he's of lower rank, the other one's of lower rank. But anyway, yeah, with John Stafford, he actually came from one of my friends. I've got a mate, and he's very sarcastic, and to be honest, he would have filled the role of John Stafford to a T. Very sort of, how would you say it, dry with his sense of humor, and just sort of very monotone with his delivery.
Hmm.
And nothing can really like phase him too much, but at the same time, like just whatever, almost. Um, but
Which
at the
is
same time, he's
interesting.
kind-hearted and very, very nice. My friend, I'm not putting a downer on my friend. He's actually a really lovely guy, and he's one of my best friends. And yeah, I couldn't say a bad word about him. But yeah,
But
very
he was
dry
the
personality.
interpretation.
Yeah,
He was the inspiration for that. What's
that's it. Yeah.
interesting is, so obviously I know what I think John Stafford MBE was doing before he met the Doctor.
Mm.
Did you ever come up with any idea of what you thought he was doing?
Um, Not really. I mean, I kind of looked into what an MBE is, what they have to do, things like that, and I kind of wanted to have a little bit of a poshness as well to his voice, because he always brings up about being an MBE, and therefore he's quite proud of it, and therefore he would be a little bit more sort of posh, even though he's quite monotone. He would still more melancholy would perhaps be a better word for it. But he's
Hmm.
also with his doctor very sort of sarcastic, like, Doctor, can't we just have your real name? Because I've told you my real name, but what the heck? Why do you have a title for a name, Doctor? Come on, don't be boring now.
Which is interesting because you ended up being paired with probably the most interesting contrast for a Doctor.
Yeah, I
The
love that.
yeah, the incomparable, like Sam Lewis as that Doctor is just but that I thought
Yeah,
that
he
was
was
a really
fantastic.
good I thought that was a really good pairing as well, like pairing off obviously the very sarcastic Stafford with,
Yeah.
the guy we call the Rockter, whose entire attitude is his entire attitude is just so. So my friend Matt Mills, who like helped create a lot of these characters and sort of created the basic idea for the Nexus Point,
Mhm.
who incidentally fucking loves you as the Mind Games Doctor because you fill that
Really?
just well. He created that character initially for like a prose
Oh
story that he
wow.
wanted to do, sort of detailing what the point of divergence between his Doctor and my Doctor was, and yeah, so he's really genuinely thrilled with your performance as it. So
Wow. That's
yeah.
cool. I'm glad.
Yeah, no,
I'm
it's proper
glad.
good. But
It's
so
brilliant.
what's interesting is obviously in the case of the pairing of Stafford with the Rockter, you've got a character who is. I think the initial inspiration for him when he was being written was if Jack Black was the Doctor.
Right. Yes, I can totally see that. Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting like I guess hot and cold contrast, if that
Sure.
makes sense. Which, to be fair, is sort of like a recurring thing because that same contrast happens a bit with Katie's Doctor and Blueford. So
Yes,
it's
that's true actually.
so that's an interesting sort of contrasting thing going on there.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
so, so yeah, that's obviously that's John. That's John. We like John.
Yep.
John
I
is
like
cool.
John. John's good.
We
Yeah. Also, with him having a few more lines as well than the Sontarans, I wanted him to have a little bit more depth to his sort of voice and mannerisms and things like that. So I say that he's quite dry. He does have mannerisms there as well. Um, but yeah, I wanted to give him a bit more depth since he was featured a bit more than some other characters. But obviously, with the main man being the Mind Doctor, he has to have all of the range.
well, this is it. This is it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So funnily enough, I always envisioned Stafford as having been like a civil servant or something. Who,
Okay.
yeah, no, like he's government basically. I always thought he was some guy in the government who'd had to end up going with the Doctor as part of some like there was some ambassadorial thing, some unit thing going on. Stafford was just there. He ended up in the TARDIS and he sort of never left because the Rockter forgot to drop him off basically.
It'd be like, Doctor, when are you going to take me home? Whenever we get to it. Whee!
Yeah, no, basically, and it's
I
an
love it.
interesting one. It's an interesting one because you definitely bring a sense of that like authority to it, which I thought
Oh,
was
that's
really
good.
good.
That's good.
Yeah, half of this is just going to be me complimenting my actors, guys. So if you don't want to hear me
I'm here for it.
complimenting, I mean, to be fair, if you don't want to hear me complimenting my actors, audience, then y'all can go fuck yourself because my actors are awesome. Um,
Thank you.
so
Well, we've got one heck of a producer as well, so good man.
Aww. I do my best,
Yeah.
and to be fair, considering how much of a space cadet I am, my best is not always brilliant, but I
Oh, I'm the
try.
same. I'm the same.
Uh,
I've got ADHD, to be honest, and my yeah, my head goes off to places like that as well, just space cadetty. So
Oh
Yep,
no,
I
that's
feel you,
fair.
man.
My missus has dyspraxia, so that comes with a whole host of things, including attention problems. So
Mm,
yeah, so
yeah.
I'm familiar with that. Whereas we strongly suspect I need to get it all like formalized and shit. We strongly suspect I have like OCD or something.
Okay.
So for me, I'm just like, I've lost my wallet. I'm now going to tear my house apart looking for my wallet, obsess about the fact that I don't know where my wallet is. Every 5 minutes or so, I'm just going to tear a few more bits apart to find my wallet. And oh shit, I can't find my wallet. I'm now going to obsess about it for the rest of my day. I can't find my wallet. And, oh wait, no, there's my wallet. Okay, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no,
Yeah.
so yeah, no, that's like me. I'm a bit space cadetty in the sense of I'll think about one thing, I'll
Mm.
focus on the thing, I'm gonna obsess about the thing. Oh wait, no, different thing now.
Yeah, literally.
So yeah.
Oh no, I'm the same. I'm exactly the same. Like I'm forever starting new projects and tasks and things and never finishing them.
I mean, to be
Um,
fair, you did pretty well with that script you wrote. So
oh, thank you. Well, it took me ages.
yeah, but the thing is,
Um,
ages is about how long it takes like most writers because writing is
True,
hard. Writing is hard.
true. Yeah,
I was ridiculously surprised at how quickly I got Nexus Point out by comparison.
that's fair. That is fair. Yeah, yeah, that's a fair point.
Although, to be fair,
Um,
Nexus Point was never meant to be 7 episodes, so that just sort of crept up on me a bit. So that was a bit like, oh, okay. So it's time, I reckon, though, to address the elephant in the room, which is
mm.
the mind games doctor.
Oh yeah.
So what's interesting is, of course, that so obviously there was an audition process for doctors,
Mm.
but the mind games doctor and the agent doctor originally I hadn't planned on auditioning them because I had a couple of guys in mind for them
Oh,
initially. No, because you remember you were on the understudy list for that.
that's right. Oh my days. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh no, it seems it was a long time ago. To be fair, like we started the
Yeah.
project in 2020, so it's been a long fucking time coming.
God,
But
yeah.
but
Man,
yeah, no.
seems
So
like ages ago.
I mean, yeah, no, it does, doesn't it? But so yeah, so initially, of course, like I had those two guys in mind. They're brilliant guys, but they're busy because
Yep,
life happens for everybody. So that's absolutely fair.
absolutely.
Uh,
I think they
um,
were professionals as well, weren't they? They sort of did it for a job
they
themselves. So.
they were people that my friend Matt had worked with before on projects. So
Right.
he used to be in the anime abridging game. He did Pandora Hearts Abridged.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, so they had they had been the guys who did that with him, and
Sweet.
one of them had been a doctor in Prisoner of the Void as well, which was the
Right.
previous audio multi-doctor team up that we'd done.
Mm.
So they had previous form. We liked those guys, but obviously didn't work out because ridiculously busy lives, etc. So what I did was I auditioned you guys, you and Sandy Jack as the understudies, and
Mm.
you ended up taking those roles, which I'm very grateful for because you guys are really fucking awesome at it. And
Oh yeah,
yeah,
huge
no,
shout out to Sandy Jack as well. He's such a legend.
he's fucking incredible. Like
I love him.
listening to his lines for your confrontation
Yeah,
today. No, I was listening to the lines for the confrontation at the end of episode 6 today, and
yeah.
oh my god, it's just oh my god. So yeah, spoiler warning.
Wow.
There's obviously gonna be a fucking confrontation between the mind games doctor and the agent doctor. Of
Heck
fucking
yeah.
course there is.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah,
we
and if
need.
we're going into spoiler territory, then we can go to spoiler territory because there's a few things that I would like to say about the spoiler territory.
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely.
Excellent, excellent.
But so first off, so you get the mind games doctor, you get that role,
Yeah.
and the first thing that you actually do is Janus paradigm.
Yes.
So
Yes, the Janus paradigm. Now,
yeah.
let me try and remember that.
Oh, it was a good long while ago. To be fair,
That was the
post regeneration.
yes, because I also did another one.
So you did three. You did the post regeneration scene in Janus paradigm. You
Yeah,
did Healer in the Jailer, which
that was right.
was
Sorry, yes, I remember now.
yeah, which is the one that you did with the incredible Abby as Mary Stranton.
Yes,
And then
huge shout out to her.
and then the last one, I think it's kind of bad when I can't remember my own audio's names. I think it's called The Prisoner, which is you
Yeah.
versus the prison. Fuck it, I can just say it, the Prisoner Master from the
Hmm.
Nexus Point, who is the incomparable Rita Book as the
Oh
prisoner,
yes.
who
Do you
is
know
like
what? She gives me chills, honestly. Like when she first came in and she was you could. Oh man, the way that I could see it in my head, she was mad and like dirty and just the crazy look in her eyes and the laughter. It was just beautiful. I
Oh
could
yeah,
see it,
and
and that is what makes a great voice actor.
absolutely. And the thing is, like,
Absolutely brilliant.
what's interesting about that character is obviously that's the master having been a prisoner in your fucking torture chamber that you made for her, you evil bastard, you. But
Oh
that's her.
yes.
That's her having been a prisoner for like a long time. But
Mm.
actually, I always envisioned that that was the incarnation of the master who existed before the divide. So
Mm.
she also is the one who regenerates into uh, Josh Griggs's operative master.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah, so she's
That's
basically
cool.
she was like the Ainley of the pre-divergence point. Basically, she stuck around for a little while, and then you drove her absolutely insane, you bastard! How dare
Well, somebody had to do it, didn't they?
you? But yeah, so I guess the big questions that I sort of have about those early outings as the Mind Games Doctor
Hmm.
sort of come down to how did you go about forming the character, and sort of what are your thoughts about like who that character is and what kind of doctor that character is.
Yeah, that's a great thought. I sort of see him as misunderstood. I think he just needs a hug, to be honest, because he he has all good intentions. The stuff that he has seen in his life would break anyone, obviously, and that's why he goes to such extreme lengths to build the well, spoiler territory, to build the Nexus Point. I think we've covered this in one of the episodes. If you haven't seen the episodes, go watch the episodes.
Why are you
Um,
still here if you haven't seen it? Go watch it, God damn it!
watch it. You're listening to something that you don't know what you're listening to. Just go and listen to the original thing, man. Um, but yeah, I think he wants to protect everyone, but at the same time, he does it to a very, very strong standard. Um, and yeah, it gets people hurt, um, unfortunately, including himself. So, but yeah, I kind of, with his voice and mannerisms and things, I wanted to give him a very gruff kind of War Doctor esque feel,
Hmm.
um, because of the stuff that he's been through. So I wanted to give him, a bit of a gravelly voice, um, and I kind of envisioned himself as being quite, up there. I'm kind of noticing a pattern with some of my characters here, but he feels himself to be above a lot of people, to be above a lot of species, and so I wanted to portray that in the power in his voice. So that's why he's both gruff, because he's old. He's an older doctor, and he's very experienced. The things that he's seen, and I think it's almost driven himself a little bit mad as well. What he's done to the master has also happened to him a little bit, not to that extent, but just a touch. And it's funny because I do a lot of impressions, a lot of voices, and things like that. And when my wife first listened to my doctor, she went, "Sounds just like your Joker voice. Um, it sounds like the Joker." I was like, "Do you know what? Fair play."
But that, yeah, that kind of works because obviously, this is a doctor who's been pushed to extremes, and
Yeah.
a lot of the inspiration that Matt and I both had was like, I don't know if you ever read the Virgin New Adventures novels from the 90s.
No, I haven't heard of those.
Okay, so back when Doctor Who was first cancelled, the story was continued of the Seventh Doctor becoming Time's champion, the Karfarak
Oh,
Gatri, and he went
oh
like
wow.
he went like full dark manipulative bastard in those stories, and he does it a bit. He does it a bit in like the Big Finish stories as well, like full dark manipulative little shitbag. So there was a
Brilliant.
there was a
Wow.
bit of that we put in there, but also, as you say, there's a bit of that War Doctor feel of here is an incarnation where all these other incarnations arrive at his
Mm,
great work, and their first reaction is, "Fuck! I want to destroy this. I want to tear all this down."
yeah,
And then there's then
totally.
there's and then there's him, with the absolute certainty that he has, being all like, no, fuck off. I made
Yeah.
this. You fucking know why I made this. Fuck
This is
you.
my prize. How dare you come to my abode?
Oh, this is it. And
Yeah.
and I think it's interesting because he is a very self-destructive character.
Mm,
Here's a character who clearly didn't take companions really before Mary. I wouldn't have thought.
no.
At least I wouldn't have envisioned it.
No, he's very, very much of a lone wolf. And I think as well, I sort of channeled a little bit of Tennant in that as well. Sort of a little bit of the old Tennant. You get that in there. Oh yes.
Oh yes.
Oh yes. So if
Uh,
you imagine him but older, I think you would almost come to a bit of a, mind
posh
doctor.
gravelly thing.
Oh yes.
But and then of course there's the fact that, again, spoilers for all you people who are somehow listening to this without having listened to Nexus Point. There's the fact that he's got his watcher, the Warden, who's
Yes.
who is a projection of himself,
Mm.
who has been running the Nexus Point in his absence for what we presume to be a fucking long time.
A very long time, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like,
Yeah, he's been there a while.
and the thing is, we sort of hint that that's an incredibly painful and difficult thing for the Doctor to try and actually do.
Yeah. Oh,
You know,
definitely. The
so
Doctor can live for hundreds of years, but because that it's a funny thing, isn't it? It's one of the Watchers, because I imagine that as being sort of, was it it's sort of inspired by the Watchers from the third Doctor?
it was,
No,
yeah,
fourth
it
Doctor.
was.
Sorry.
So there are two examples of a future incarnation appearing before a character dies. So
Hmm.
there's obviously the Watcher, who appears in Legopolis, Tom Baker's last story.
Right.
But the one that inspired me was Choji from Planet of the Spiders, which is John Pertwee's final story. So
Right.
a Time Lord called Campo Rinpoche projects this version of his other self, who's like a full autonomous physical being who runs around helping characters out and shit. And then when Campo dies, Choji vanishes and Campo regenerates into Choji. So that was sort of,
Right.
and my attitude to that was sort of, okay, so if there's ever going to be a Doctor who's going to concentrate enough to project his self, the
Mm.
future self that he expects he will become, it's going to
Yeah.
be this guy. And then
Got
I
it.
thought, what if that guy is the villain, or like the, again, spoiler territory, the fake out villain for the first 5 episodes, where you think, oh shit,
Yeah.
this guy's the bad guy. He's like a version of the Doctor gone wrong.
Yeah.
Except no, the Doctor is the version of the Doctor that's gone wrong.
I like that.
You
I like
know,
that. It almost reminds me as well. I think, I don't know. For some reason, it's reminded me of Shada. That brilliant episode where they go to the um, there's a college and there's a professor there who's a bit eccentric, and it turns out that he's a Time Lord, and his whole sort of building, well, the whole corner of the building is a TARDIS. And when he dies, I think he
he
dies somehow.
vanishes.
He vanishes, does he? Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly. I remember it hitting home so hard because I love that character.
Hmm.
I just really like that guy for some reason.
I
I don't
mean,
know why it's reminded me of it.
it's the thing is, it's all based in like what we know of Time Lords and almost Time Lord mysticism, which is
Mm,
a big thing for me. Like, I'm a big fan of Time Lord mysticism
yeah,
because it's a big thing for me. Is I like sci-fi,
yeah,
but more than that, I like sci fantasy and mysticism in science fiction, and putting
totally.
a bit of like, there is stuff that we do not know, there is stuff that we do
Mm,
not understand, there is stuff that, if you look at it from a purely scientific perspective, makes no fucking sense.
yeah,
But then when you look at it from the perspective of, this is science so advanced that it could be magic, or it
exactly.
could be even like divinity, like this is the
Yeah.
Doctor literally. And it's interesting because, in a way, it's a dark twist on that sort of almost Buddhist notion from Planet of the Spiders of a projection of one's, future self, a
Mm.
projection of one's idealized self, where the Mind Games Doctor's idealized self is bad shit. So,
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Do you know what? That actually, now that you've, I mean, not that the story didn't explain it well, but like explaining it like that has actually made me go, oh heck, yeah, that actually works even better than I thought it did. Yeah, that's
mm,
really good.
I do try. But I mean,
Oh man.
this is the thing though, is that playing a damaged version of everyone's favorite hero as well. Like,
Mm.
so how was that for you when you sort of went in with that?
Um. Oh, it was great because I I like sort of villains and things like that. I'm always more on the villain side than the hero side myself. So to actually come in and be able to play a villain is great, and especially it being the Doctor. Like to be able to play an evil version of the Doctor and it not be the Master. I mean, I'd love to play the Master. Don't get me wrong, but like, yeah, to be able to do that as the Doctor is just brilliant. And the little twists and things that you've got in the story there, just I remember reading the scripts, going, "Flipping heck, dude, you're going. Where did you get that from? That's brilliant." Um, yeah, and listening to it back as well, just it's like hearing it all over or reading it all over again. Because you're seeing it come together. And again, same. Going back to that point about sort of seeing it all as you're listening to it. Whenever there's like two or three doctors chatting, I can see them all there, um, and I can see each one in their clothing and their funny haircuts and things like that. And yeah, you've just made a really great atmosphere, and I think the cast obviously as well make it. So
I mean, this is what I
yeah,
was about to say. Is it's one thing for me to have written 7 fucking half-hour episodes on like paper and stuff. That's one thing,
yeah,
and I'm not trying to denigrate that, I guess, achievement, because my counselor says I have to be more positive about myself. But on a more serious note, like, I'm not denigrating the achievement of writing
sure,
those scripts, and obviously that plays a part of it. But to me, like, great actors elevate any script. Like, if you had a bad script,
definitely,
great actors would elevate that. If you have a
definitely,
great script and you have terrible actors, it's a shit product.
yeah,
Whereas, I was incredibly blessed with Nexus Point, that I started casting for it in the middle of a fucking pandemic, in the middle of a fucking lockdown. Everybody was
yeah,
like, coming in and wanting to be part of it, and it was just, I think it's weird. It's an event. I don't think you'd ever quite get something like the Nexus Point again, where you get
mm,
just that many insanely talented people to
oh,
sort of just.
definitely,
And the thing is, like, it's crazy because since doing the first stuff at Nexus Point, like the people that I've met and the people that I've had the opportunity to work with, some of whom are in like the episodes. So like for like episodes 4, 5, 6, and 7, like Dominic Greenwood Martin cameos. I've got
mm.
George Gydra in as his doctor from his channel and stuff.
Oh, brilliant! I didn't know
Yeah.
that. That's brilliant.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it's
Excellent.
it's 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 crazy because it's like I'm fairly certain that up until an acquaintance of mine, a friend of mine called Rory Guest, who runs Rassilon Productions,
Mm.
up until he decides to release the end of his big Endgame saga, I am going to hold the record for number of doctors in a production. Because
Excellent. I am proud to be
17
part of that.
doctors, motherfucker. 17 doctors.
Again, also huge shout out to Dominic Greenwood Martin as well. Absolute flipping legend and
Yeah.
huge inspiration as well. Um, I know he's had a bit of a time recently, but he's absolutely brilliant.
Oh,
Absolute legend.
he is. And the thing is, he stepped in because the role that he fills is basically, I had a doctor lined up for that, but he basically vanished off the face of both the Discord and the planet.
Oh,
Like a good 3 or 4 months into production, he never sent any lines.
that's weird.
So when it came
Fair
to
enough.
actually editing the episodes with that guy in, I reached out to Dom and I was basically like, "Hey, can you do me a massive solid and fill these lines in?" And he's like been really honestly great with it.
Excellent.
But yeah, this is it though. Is
Because
that
I
I've had
sent him before that. I sent him a thing. I think it was a link to the sort of upcoming episode, and I was like, "Hey, would you mind checking this out? Because we're pals, and I'd love to hear your opinion on my voice acting and stuff like that." And he sent me a message back saying, "Yeah, I'm in it." I was like, "Are you?"
yeah, yeah. No, it's crazy the people that you end up meeting in this fandom though.
Yeah,
Like
oh, it really is. Yeah,
um,
I remember being at Comic Con, and I ended up like it was one of my first Comic Cons cosplaying as the Doctor,
hmm.
and I went to the Doctor Who meetup, and there's the amount of cosplayers on Instagram that I followed that were there, and I remember sort of feeling a bit embarrassed because I go up to one guy and say, "Oh, I follow you on Instagram." They go up to the next guy, "Oh, I follow you on Instagram." They're like, "Yeah, I follow you on Instagram." It's like, so many people. And then ended up bumping into that. Oh, what was their name? They used to run the Doctor Who show
The fan
on.
show.
Yeah, I think it was a fan thing, but they got really big. Sort of got short hair. Crystal D, thank you, mate.
Oh,
Crystal D.
no,
Yeah, I
yeah.
ended up, yeah, and yeah, we had a good chat, got a picture, and yeah, lovely. So,
I don't go to cons very often, to be fair. Yeah, having kids. Fair warning,
mm,
having kids stops that from ever happening, and I had kids young, so
fair. Do
So
you know what?
yeah.
I've been looking at the LFCC tickets coming up because they've just announced David Tennant and Jodie Whittaker photos together, and it's £200. And I'm like, okay, I need this, but at the same time, do I need this? Do you know what I
I
mean?
mean, I look at that and I go, that would be nice, but I got my selfies with Peter Capaldi for free.
Oh, okay, now that's a flex. That is a flex.
No, 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 no. The real flex is that he took them.
Oh no.
No, no. So it was like so yeah. In that particular instance, he was filming David Copperfield up in Hull,
Okay.
and so we went to go like get photos and stuff with him. My wife dragged me because I was umming and ahhing and scared shitless because it's Peter fucking Capaldi.
Of course, yeah.
I'm trying to get him in frame with me, my wife, and my son, and he's like,
Oh
"Oh,
wow.
I'm not even in that shot. Give me the phone." He takes the phone. He's smiling all the way, and then he takes 11 selfies, pulling his doctor faces as he
Wow.
does it.
Oh my day. You've got to send those to me if you can, because I
Oh
need to
yeah,
see
oh
those.
yeah, happy
Dude,
to. But
that's amazing. Because he's like my favorite Doctor. All right, David Tennant, very, very close second because he's the Doctor. But
mm.
Capaldi just, he's my Doctor.
Oh yeah,
So
no. Like Capaldi's up there for me. I think for
yeah,
me it's the two Johns, Peter Capaldi,
yeah,
Paul McGann. Like
yeah,
those
definitely.
those are my like doctors basically. But
Yeah, I remember actually with early versions of my Mind Doctor, it was a tough decision between going for the sort of gruff thing or going for a more almost John Pertwee kind of twinge to it. I like to go with the more old-fashioned kind of Doctor, but then obviously reading more of the scripts, getting to know his character and things like that, the gruffness just sort of
felt more right.
felt right. Yeah.
I think I agree because you wanna sort of pull out the best way of putting it. You want to sort of pull out the fact that this guy's not a traditional doctor in a way.
Mm,
You know,
that's it.
I mean,
That's it.
that sort of does beg the question, though. So, obviously, you really enjoyed playing the Mind Games Doctor, but is there like a part of you that regrets the fact that the Doctor that you play is this unconventional incarnation as opposed to a more conventional Doctor?
Oh no. No, I love it. I love it, especially with the way it's written. I think you couldn't really go wrong. Um, and I would love to explore more of his stories, hint, hint, uh, in the future, just to see what else he can do. For example, with I don't know, Sontarans coming to Earth, he would come up with the cruelest way to get rid of them, and I would just love to see that come to life.
Oh yeah.
If there was some sort of espionage, say the Slitheen coming in, he would be like, "Well, you guys fart a lot. Here's a lighter," and
I mean, this is it though. Is that the way I see it is there is not a single enemy, a
mm,
single individual enemy that he faces more than once, because for him it's
yeah,
like I'm facing you, you're off to the fucking jail, motherfucker.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think, I mean, how much into spoiler territory can we go here?
We can go pretty far. We can go
Yeah,
pretty far.
because I was going to bring out something that happened. I think it's the last bit of the Nexus Point,
Hmm.
um, where you can cut it if you want, but I th- I find it interesting that it's himself that makes him regenerate,
Hmm.
because nobody else would be able to do that other than himself.
I think, yeah, no, because the thing that sort of I wanted to bring out, because I'm very leery of the Doctor as pure villain at the
Mm,
best of times, but what I really wanted to bring out with his death was he was faced with the choice of preserving the work he's done
Yeah.
or saving Mary.
Yeah.
And in like, and the thing is, it's not even a case where he thinks about it or he agonizes over it.
Yeah.
Immediately, he's like, nope, saving Mary, fuck the work, fuck the Nexus
Yeah.
Point.
And I love that because it really shows his development and that he actually does care behind all of that gruffness, all of those barriers and walls that he puts up to everybody, even Mary to a point. Um, he breaks them down in a second to save his friend.
Which is, that's a fundamental truth of being the Doctor, I suppose.
Definitely.
Um,
Definitely.
to be honest, there's so much about that Doctor that we could explore,
Yeah.
and
There is a lot.
the thing is, we're going to like
Excellent.
no like right here, right now. I'm saying it. We are fucking going to explore more of that. So right now,
You heard it here first, guys.
oh yeah, you totally heard it here first. All two people who give a shit about the stuff that we do. But yeah, so the first big thing with it is there's basically going to be a series of one shots for any doctors who want to come back at some point. It's being written. It's going to be written. So obviously you've written yours for Katie Haynes's Challenge Doctor,
Yeah.
which is I'm in the process of being a pedantic OCD shithead and reformatting that, and then I'm going to go through it and tweak it slightly.
I'm so
Mainly,
excited for that.
I'm really excited for that because Katie Haynes is brilliant.
Oh yeah.
Roy Ivey as Bluford was fucking brilliant.
Oh yeah.
So that's
You know,
fun.
there's another Doctor that I'd really like to explore more of, and it's purely for their delivery,
Mm.
as well as their personality, and that's oh man, what's the Doctor? It's the girl who's like really softly spoken.
Oh,
You know
Courtney.
the
Courtney
Courtney. Thank
McRae.
you.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, she's brilliant.
Oh,
I
she's
love
incredible.
that.
You mean
And yeah,
the one who's paired with Jack Anderson's Doctor from like episode 2 onwards?
yes.
Yeah, no. So
Yeah,
the
she's
the
that's it. Yeah.
surreal Doctor, we call
Oh,
her.
brilliant. I
So
love her.
so this is the thing. I keep using these nicknames. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit iffy on nicknames for doctors in general. Like, I understand the need for it. I don't actually like. It's not something that I'd ever like credit people as. This is the Challenge Doctor. This is the Surreal Doctor. But when we were creating different timelines and stuff, Matt gave them all nicknames based on their rough personalities, and I didn't ever use those when I was auditioning people because I didn't want to say to people, this doctor is like this doctor is like this. I wanted people to come to me with their Doctor Who that I would then make work somehow. And
That's
it
cool.
was kind of a natural fit that certain people became more like one doctor or another.
Yeah.
Certain people were more like, the Challenge Doctor or the Surreal Doctor or the Rockter. We ended
Mm.
up with these characters, naturally, which I really
Yeah.
love and I'm really happy with. But yeah,
It's
no, it
one
would
thing
be
as
fucking.
well. One thing as well with the surreal Doctor that I really love is um, she's kind of in the background almost, and then she'll only speak if there's something really important to say. Um, and she always notices little things that are actually huge things that gets stuff done. I really like that. How did you sort of write that? How did that come about?
So the entire point of the Surreal Doctor is, again, this is one of Matt's timeline. So Matt had a lot of say in creating the initial sketch of that character.
Right.
His interpretation of it was, here is a Doctor who the things that they notice are always not what anyone else would notice. It's a very alien perspective. It's very much like, if they see a series of bloodied fingerprints on a wall, they'll notice that one of the fingerprints looks like there's a cut through the middle of it or something because that person has a
Right.
scar through their fingerprint or something. Or, they'll notice that the smear goes sideways a bit before it goes down, something like that, for
Interesting.
example.
Picking up
It's a
on the
very,
details.
yeah, yeah. And so the way I sort of interpreted that is, here's a character who, I guess, there's a little bit of the Cloud Cuckoo Lander in it. So
Yeah.
lines like, at least you got to say the word throng before you went. That's a good word. You
Yeah.
know, a
I
little
like
bit
that.
of
Yeah.
there's a little bit of the Cloud Cuckoo Lander in it. and there's
Yeah.
a little bit of the genius savant in there,
Mm,
which is stuff that I was trying to bring out because it's difficult when you're writing for 19 people or 20 people or 30 people.
totally.
It's difficult to create full characters. The only
Mm,
thing that you can really do with it is create bold sketches, make them fill a particular role, and then trust the actors to bring personality and dynamism to that.
right.
So a lot of what's going on in the early episodes for most of these doctors is repetitions of the fuck is this fucking place? You know, why the fuck is this fucking place here?
Yeah.
You know, whereas and the detail in that is in how they ask those questions or the way in
Mm,
which they approach those questions. You know, and I think it's
totally.
interesting. Again, going into spoiler territory, that when your doctor is dying, it's the surreal doctor who goes up to Mary and goes, "Yeah, I'm going to be really hard on my previous self once he's regenerated. Try and bear with me on that one, please."
Yeah.
You know, that's
Totally. Yeah.
and the fact that she's the only one who thinks to do that as well.
That's true, actually.
You know, none
Yeah.
of the
Out of
other.
all those other doctors.
So it's
Yeah.
you know, I mean, so obviously you wrote. So what made you decide to write Katie's Doctor and Blueford first, if I may ask? What is it about that
Um.
particular pairing that sort of drew your eye and made you think, yeah, I'm getting in on that?
Um. That's a great question. I think I'd asked you and said, I've got this idea for a story. Which doctor do you think would fit it the best? And you said that you've been looking to explore their sort of backstory a little bit more. And I said, well, if you're happy for me to write a story for them, I've got an idea. I'll pitch it to you, and we'll see how it goes. And it sort of went from there, really. Um,
Oh, crikey! It's been so long I had actually forgotten that I
yeah,
suggested them. I mean, it's good
yeah,
though because like you know it is probably the first script ever written for Man at Desk that hasn't been me or Matt.
hmm,
So, you know, I'll fucking
cool.
take that. And, you
Happy
know,
to
if
get in
you.
on the action. Yeah.
The one thing that I will say is because of the limitations of having so many characters, I worry that. I was always worrying about two specific things. I was worrying that I didn't quite give enough credence to, I guess, my timeline, but especially the agent doctor. I was
Mm,
worrying that, you know, he was a bit reactive and I didn't give quite enough exploration to what he's been through compared to the Mind Games Doctor.
yeah,
Because obviously because we're in the middle of the Mind Games Doctor's personal trauma, not the agent doctor's. So it's a
sure.
difficult one. And I was always worried that I'd made Mary a bit of a manic pixie dream girl, but like a PTSD manic pixie dream girl, where it seemed like her only. And this is something because the thing is, I'm recording a podcast with Abby like right after I've done one with you. Like
Oh,
Abby's free this
brilliant.
evening after.
Oh, cool.
Um,
Say hi to her for me.
I will do. I will do. But like you know, I might discuss this with her actually whether she thinks that's true of Mary. But I
Mm,
worry that Mary is a bit too defined by the fact that she's having to be the doctor's companion and soothe the doctor's PTSD rather than
yeah,
focus on her own. So a lot of what I want for that story is to focus on her,
that'd
if
be
that
great.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that'd be great. And to be fair, it does make sense because she's caring for the doctor. She always wants, as you say, she wants to make sure that his PTSD is subdued almost. And when we first meet her and the mind doctor, the doctor says to her, talking about the TARDIS, you're treating her like one of your patients. And I think she's trying to get a little bit of her own PTSD out by um, caring for others
Hmm.
because she's still in that mindset. She can't get out of that mindset that she has to be there to care for people because if she doesn't, it's all going to go to hell. Um,
Especially when you stop and think like even up until recently, our own understanding of PTSD was bad,
mm,
manically bad. It was bad.
it's
But
true, yeah,
so you've got to think like back in the day, they called it shell shock, and they thought shell shock is a thing that the soldiers got,
yeah,
not the people treating the soldiers. Whereas actually
mm.
nowadays we're aware that there are many different forms of PTSD,
Oh,
and
definitely. I mean,
so
I've experienced PTSD myself. I was going into a bit of personal territory. I was attacked once in my own car,
oh
and
god,
it left me with pretty bad PTSD, and I've had therapy and things like that. It's helped, but it's really interesting the way that they describe it as being a memory that's fallen off the conveyor belt. um, and you need to get that memory back on the conveyor belt because while it's not on that conveyor belt, it's not going anywhere. It's staying there,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's really interesting the sort of leaps and bounds in psychology that we've had in the past few years, let alone the last
Since
100
World
years or
War
so.
One.
Yeah, totally.
But this is it. Is that it'll be fascinating for me to explore. Well, I guess fascinating for Abby to explore. Mary's PTSD from having to
Yeah,
deal with these young men who came back with bits missing from them, or
yeah.
worse. Awful, awful time. Did that influence your performance in any way? Do you think?
Oh, it might well have done actually. Um, yeah, I think it helped to get some of that pent up um emotion out. Definitely. I remember being up at sort of 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning at night, just um, being loud and, my parents coming down like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, it's fine. I'm just recording." Um, but yeah, I think that that may have played a part in it. I hadn't actually thought of that. In which case, thank you for helping me to get my pent up emotions out.
Happy to help. Albeit sort of as a happy byproduct.
Yeah,
I think it is interesting because obviously that is PTSD is a big part of what drives the Mind Games Doctor. Is here's a
totally.
character who he made a choice, his friends died, he
Mm,
died, and then he was brought back to life, not just regenerated, but he actually physically died
yeah.
and was restored to life by the Time Lords. That's a big part of his character.
Definitely. I kind of
Uh,
wanted to play a little bit of that survivor's guilt in there as well. And that whole sort of looking back at, what he had lost and really empathizing. So when he's thinking about Julie and Goldie, for example, it's not just, oh, Julie and Goldie, oh, never mind. Right, on with our day. It really sort of impacts his performance, his emotions. So when he's thinking about them, it's Julie and Goldie. Oh, what happened to them? Oh, I wish I could go back and save them, but no, I can't. There's a lot of that regret and remorse almost.
which
So
is that's a big and important part of the character.
yeah,
um and we're going to get to explore more of that, which is really exciting.
yeah.
you
Oh,
know
I'd love that. And
and the
also,
thing is,
somebody brings it up as well. I think it's in the episode that's just gone. He. So, oh, that was it. He's asking about another doctor if they remember Julie and Goldie, and he's sort of working out that okay, there was a vergence, and there's two different timelines that have split from this moment, and the other doctor remembers events differently
hmm,
to how the Mind Doctor remembers it. And whenever he says about Julie and Goldie, whenever he says their names, there's always a quiver of sadness in there. So when he says to the Doctor, uh, Julie and Goldie, what do you remember about them? So there's sort of a pause there. There's
hmm,
a slight, reflection on them. Whether he wants it or not, it's there.
yeah,
Um,
which
and yeah,
again is one of these touches that again elevates the material, I think.
definitely.
So again, thank you.
Pleasure, pleasure. I really
um
wanted to give, real depth into this. So
yeah, I don't know if this is actually clear from what was in the scripts, by the way. So obviously for your doctor they died.
yeah,
For the agent doctor, they stayed with him, but then their memories were erased and they were sent home. Yeah,
right.
so for him, he lost them just the same, but in a
Oh,
different way entirely, and
that's
he can never
interesting.
go back either way. So yeah,
That is
it's
interesting. I never knew that.
so
Oh.
basically it sucks to be them.
Yeah, basically, either way, well, there's probably some universe out there that's
It's a
there's a
bit
more of a
better
happy
for them.
ending. But yeah, I had actually thought as I was reading the script for the first time, I remember him chatting with that other doctor, and I could see it in my mind, a potential thing where he says Julie and Goldie, where are they? Are they safe? And he says, yeah, they're right here. And there's Julie and Goldie there, and he has to come to terms with the fact that they're right in front of him, but they died. And what?
Oh God.
You know
I
what I
mean
mean?
that
But
that that would be a multi-doctor story in and of itself, really,
oh yeah,
and that's something that I'd have to talk to Ethan about. That would be a story. That would be a
yeah,
story. But yeah, so to finish off then,
Yep.
because we know that there's going to be more mind game stuff, so that's a bit of the like you in the future stuff sort of done.
Yep.
Um,
Which I'm
yeah.
very much looking
So,
forward to. Stay tuned for that.
oh yeah, absolutely. But the thing that's sort of interesting me as well is, so you sent me your recording of the big 12th Doctor speech scene,
Mhm.
which I then sort of edited and put together because I thought you've sent me this thing, it's fucking awesome, why not? So yeah. So what made you decide to do that?
So I when did I do that? I think I had finished recording about 2 or 3 episodes in one night. I just went on a massive spree of recording, and again, it was really late at night, and I was like, do you know what? I'm tired. I've got work in the morning, but I kind of want to try this Doctor speech. So I got it up, and I just thought, heck, why not? So I started recording it, and I did it all in one go, um, in one take, no sort of different takes or re-recording or anything like that. I just read it through, and yeah, I was like, I sent it to you. I was like, wouldn't it be cool if my mind doctor did a version of the Wasp speech, because it kind of fits his whole aesthetic. Um, I feel so. Yeah, and then you loved it and put the whole Clara being in there as well, and Kate Lethbridge Stewart as well. And yeah, it came out really, really well. I was so happy with that.
Oh, I mean, I thought it was like genuinely. I wouldn't have put it together if I didn't think, fuck me, this is one of the best versions of this I've ever fucking heard.
Wow,
So
thank you.
no, but again, like to sort of close off again, I just have to say, absolutely, thank you so much for like being the Mind Games Doctor and continuing to be the Mind Games Doctor as time goes on. And
Oh, my
it'll be
pleasure.
really exciting. It'll be really fucking exciting to see what else you do with the character and what else. I guess it'll be interesting because we've seen him technically at the beginning and at the end of his story. It'll
Hmm.
be interesting to actually go back and reverse engineer what the middle is like.
Oh yeah, yeah, because you can have that any sort of length you want, really. How long's a piece of string? We've got the start and the end, but what's in the middle is
I mean,
to
what you've
be
got to think
seen.
is he's clearly lived a good fucking long life because
Oh
he
yeah,
filled the Nexus Point. He filled it.
yes, true.
Like there are
True.
Sontarans, the Master, Davros, Daleks, Cybermen.
Oh,
Everything's in there. So
are you hinting to things to come, dear boy?
do you know? Bitch, I might be. And
Mate, if I get to go up against that master, oh boy, that's gonna be fun.
I know.
I
But
love that. But yeah,
in the
thank you very
meantime,
much.
thank you very much, Captain
Thank
Peanut.
you.
And
Thank you for
yeah,
giving me the role and for including me in this absolutely brilliant masterpiece that you've created, along with Mr. M. And yeah, I look forward to the upcoming projects that we've got going on.
indeed. Right. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. Don't forget to click the like button, subscribe, all that other YouTuber bollocks. And I will include whatever links Captain Peanut wants me to include in the description below. So, yeah.
Very good.
Thank you,
If you
everybody, for
don't
listening.
subscribe, then you will find yourself in a cell in the Nexus Point.
Bye bye, everybody.
Farewell.